Gentlemen, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, regret to inform you that it's time to look at this week in women, because there has always been some developments going on with female empowerment and feminism and rising up against the patriarchy, because we're allowed to call them women as long as it's in contrast to evil men. Any other circumstance, they're birthing people, they're womb bearers, they're carriers of mammaries, I don't know what you want to refer to them as, but they're only ever women if it's so that you can rub it in their face how much better they are and less evil they are than men, and that's what we're going to look into in a moment. I do want to point out as well, I like referring to this one that Carl released recently on the website and on YouTube, on the lotuseaters.com channel on YouTube that we have, where we release some of our direct videos and previews of the premium content. So if you're still unsure about checking out some of the premium content on the website, you can see the previews there. You should really check it out. But this is a recent video that he's put out called Reality Against Abstraction. And you can see just from the thumbnail there, ideology is not real. Women and women's liberation has existed purely within the realm of ideology for a long time. But as we've found out through anything from just real results in the real world in, say, STEM fields and such, and the lack of women who go into them, despite the fact that every opportunity is given to them. Scandinavian countries that have more and more gender equality than any other country in the world, all becoming more diverse with the ways that men and women live their lives, because it turns out if you let men and women just act how they want, they'll act like men and women, which are different. Or just any other number of metrics like surveys regarding women's happiness since women's liberation. It's not looked good. It's been a pretty steady downwards curve, because it turns out that traditional gender roles didn't just work for men, they also work for women as well for the most part, which is why they stuck around for thousands of years.
Well, acting in contravention to your biology doesn't really do you any favours. Shocker. Reality is a set of guardrails, and if you try and breach the guardrails, well, doesn't always do your psychology any good.
It definitely does not. But moving on, you should check out that video that we've got there. Anyway, one of the first things that I wanted to point out, because this is going to be a bit of a mixed bag of topics that we're going to discuss today. The first one was there's been a little bit of mocking, a little bit of guffaws given in the general direction of Jennifer Lawrence, an actress that back in the day, 10 years ago when she was first starting to come out, was considered like, oh, she's like a bit of a girl next door vibe. Oh, I bet I could get along with... No, she's just as entitled, just as stuck up, and honestly, just as stupid as everybody else in Hollywood.
I was actually going to say that Jennifer Lawrence is one of the examples of how someone's repugnant personality.
So you said earlier. What does that mean? I've never heard that before.
Like the bar. Like,
oh, okay, all right.
The perfect example of how someone's repugnant personality can make them wholly unattractive, even if they are physically very attractive. Like, she's a pretty girl, but she's so insufferably annoying and wooden on screen. I wouldn't touch her with a barge pole.
Yeah, but let's just play the clip, because she said something quite confounding to anybody with even a rudimentary knowledge of film.
I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
Yeah. What?
Because it wouldn't work. We were told girls and boys can both identify with a male lead, but boys cannot identify with a female lead.
Oh, absolutely.
And it just
absolutely
makes me so happy every single time I see a movie come out that just blows through every single one of those beliefs and proves that it is just a lie to keep certain people out of the movies, to keep certain people in the same positions that they've always been in. And it's just amazing to watch it happen and watch you at the helm.
Well, she knows she's lying because of the liar's smile. It's also interesting to have Viola Davis interview her, because Viola Davis, with The Woman King, equally broke ground on being the first slave-owning loser to star in an action movie.
Yeah, and I know that we all know that that's rubbish, but just for the sake of consistency and just for the sake of being nice and thorough on this, we can just go to the next link. And I even chose that Star Wars girl, who is a woman herself, an actual woman, not one of those newfangled ones with the penises and such, completely debunking this.
Yep.
I mean, you can go back even further. You've got Sigourney Weaver, you've got Sarah Connor from the Terminator franchise. Lara Croft had 2 films. You could go all the way back to the 70s with Princess Leia, with What's-Her-Face in Halloween. Yeah, and you've got
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah. You've got
Trinity in the Matrix,
Pam
terrible
Grier,
Resident Evil movies.
Pam Grier and Jackie Brown, but you can go back to the 1970s and watch her in stuff where she's Foxy Brown.
It's like,
in the blaxploitation
sorry,
era.
love, you weren't even the first Mystique.
Yeah, you were rubbish. And you are a bit of a rubbish wooden actor as well, sad to break it to you. I'm sure you can put some effort in, but I don't know, maybe learn to contort your face muscles a little bit more.
Hold on, Lord of the Rings actually added an entire action scene just for Arwen. And it was good, don't get me wrong, but the film actually added in extra bits for its female characters to be boss girls. And it fit their characters, don't get me wrong, but this was 20 years before your career even kicked off.
I will just carry water for the die-hard Tolkien fans out there. There are still plenty of people who are annoyed that Jackson did that with Arwen.
Fine to criticise it, that's all right. I just wasn't that fussed about it being included. But the point being, 10 years before you were even doing movies, it was happening.
So that was nonsense.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a load of rubbish. Everybody knows it's a load of rubbish. The fact that she's trying to erase the cinematic masterpieces that were the Resident Evil films by Paul W. Anderson?
W.S. Anderson?
There's a few too many Paul Andersons in Hollywood, but the fact that they're trying to erase those cinematic masterpieces is just beyond the pale. How could you do something like that, Jennifer? That's just absolutely disgusting.
You're making me feel physically ill.
But we do maybe have some evidence that perhaps things aren't going so well for women in Hollywood, because, sad to break it to you boys, Wonder Woman 3's been cancelled.
Yes!
Yes, Wonder Woman,
I'm so chuffed.
as done by Patty Jenkins, trailblazing female director, isn't going to be happening anymore. At least not in the way that she wanted it to. So,
what, she's not going to make her a rapist again?
Well, we're still deciding about that.
Right,
but
okay.
We'll see. Whatever the vision she had for Wonder Woman 3 isn't going to be going ahead, because Warner Brothers Discovery passed on Patty Jenkins' third Wonder Woman film after her treatment was reportedly determined to not fit in with the studio's newly revised plans for DC's storehouse of IPs. Now, I can only assume that they decided it wouldn't fit in after they watched Wonder Woman 1984. Why they decided that would fit in. Yeah, I mean, I've not watched either of them.
The first one's horrible as well.
People liked that one for some reason.
Because they're idiots?
1984 just looked bloody awful.
Oh, it's horrendous, yeah.
It looked atrocious. But I just wanted to give this particular little story here a little womp womp. Just, I think it's fitting. Moving on to other news for women this week. So Elon is being sued as part of Twitter for misogyny, because apparently he targeted women for layoffs when he was firing like 3/4 of the staff.
So he cut all the useless jobs, women most affected.
That seems to be what's happened here.
I have a scripted video coming out on basically how our entire economy is founded on ideological promises, unsustainable debt, and making a bunch of women who enter the workforce feel better about their meaningless jobs, and Elon Musk seems to be proving me right.
Yeah, so the proposed class action filed late on Wednesday in San Francisco federal court said that after Twitter was taken over by Elon Musk, the world's richest person, for some reason Reuters needs to point that one out, it laid off 57% of its female workers compared to 47% of men. So, as you've maybe hinted at there, what does this say about the women who are working there in their job roles? And also, do I need to refer everybody back to the adult nursery TikTok videos of women in tech in Chicago talking about their days of work? Because it didn't involve much work. It mainly involved sitting around, chatting and gossiping with your friends, eating free food that they would give you for working in these organisations. It wasn't really labour intensive.
No, Cole doesn't have stations of box wine and little gifts laid around the office, funnily enough. So,
and we're still working on getting those because we deserve them, but that's not what we get every day. So the lawsuit was filed by 2 women who were laid off by Twitter last month, and they accused the company of violating federal and California laws banning workplace sex discrimination. Boo-hoo. Shannon Liz Riordan, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, said women had targets on their backs once Musk acquired the company, regardless of their talent and contribution.
So they just saw Lauren Chen's tweet.
I feel like this is saying more about your talent and contributions than it is about Elon. But
your total utter lack of either.
Maybe some of these women will be appearing in the BBC's Top 100 Women of 2022 list, which we'll take a look at now, which... It's not great. It is pretty ideologically motivated. You'll notice that there are some trends that connect a lot of the people who are in there. Now, I'm not going to say that there's nobody worthwhile in this, because there are some women in here who really have done really good work and really have done some interesting things. Pete sent me through one woman who was a sufferer of Down syndrome, for instance.
Yes, she's the woman that's tried to sue the UK to prevent the fact that abortions, if you screen for disabilities like a cleft lip or Down syndrome, you can abort up until birth. So she's trying to prevent that.
Yes, so there are women in this list who are very worthy of admiration and worthy of celebration. Because, you know, we joke, but I'm not anti-woman or anything like that. Women can do plenty of very useful things. It's just that the things that they're being held up for most of the time in the establishment and the mainstream are not useful.
It's
They're
astroturfing.
not good. Yes, it's completely astroturfed.
Frankly, as well, just a serious point of clarification, Harry and I make jokes about women all the time because we live with them, and so the institution of the
We're
pub
best
in...
positioned to understand women.
Yeah, the institution of the pub in Great Britain exists just so men can go for about an hour and complain about their wives, and then go back home to their wives and treat them very well. So in our immediate lives, we actually really enjoy the company of women. It's just the bollocks perpetuated by the feminist establishment, which keeps women unhappy, offends us.
Well, I mean, it's not like women don't do the exact same thing. My missus has been out with some of her friends today, and I'm sure there's been a few bad words pointed in my direction.
Well, not just that.
That's what
Female
happens.
friendship groups are self-esteem firing squads. Like, they all just cannibalize each other's image to boost each other up, and that's why my girlfriend's just become thought patrol for her group. She's like, no, I'm not letting them steal each other's men and do like sexual sabotage for each other just so they can feel better about it. I'm just going to tell them, no, make sensible decisions, and then you might actually feel more confident about yourself long term.
I mean, that does remind me, and this is going to be a little bit off topic. I noticed that Paramore, of all bands, released a new song today, which is actually quite good. It's a decent little tune. I actually quite enjoy their music.
Right.
But Hayley Williams, despite calling herself a feminist nowadays, still wrote the greatest slut-shaming song of all time in Misery Business.
I haven't heard it, but I'll go listen.
You will have
afterwards.
heard it, but it's a complete slut-shaming song, and it's actually quite fun. But anyway, let's take a look at some of the women who are on this list, including a Australian woman called Chanel Contos, a sexual consent activist who founded a movement dubbed Teachers Consent that lobbies for holistic consent and sexuality education. So, I mean, I don't know strictly, but that sounds an awful lot like what DeSantis was legislating against, because I know the slippery slope that turns into holistic consent and sexuality education. It turns into what Project Veritas were covering yesterday, where we hand out dildos and butt plugs for the children in primary school and nursery. Not exactly what I want.
You deserve prison time, not an accolade.
And obviously she's bringing up some problems to do with sexual assault, especially in schools. That's always very good. The problem is that the problem is always
the way in which it's taught, because frankly, and I said this on Piers Morgan's show, the perpetual attempts to teach men not to rape, no, all it does is it grays the boundaries for most men who would like to approach a woman but feel discouraged by the likes of the Gillette advert, thinking they're going to be told they're toxically masculine. Whereas actual rapists whose brains are broken because they have no moral boundaries, and they're weak men because they have to take advantage of women in vulnerable positions because they can't earn a woman otherwise. You can't teach them not to rape because they're so willing to rape, they'll go to prison for it. So trying to teach people consent doesn't work. All you need instead is women to be armed to defend themselves and men to be strong enough to beat the crap out of those people and have pretty severe punishments for those that try to do it.
Yeah, I mean, she launched a petition calling for earlier consent education in Australia to combat this, and like you say, this is, you do know that in like Norway and Sweden, when they had all of the migrants come over raping people and they put on the little armbands that said, please do not rape me, they didn't do anything. They tried to teach the people not to rape, and they did anyway. The best thing to do is to criminalise it and make it really harsh punishments against it to deter it. That's the best you can really do. I mean, personally, I would argue for just not chemical, but full-on castration as a punishment for rapists. So,
Hand me the hammer, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, there you go. We've also got Maud Gober, a UK LGBTQ plus activist who is a refugee who's worked for 2 decades with grassroots organisations to promote the integration of refugees, and she is currently a national manager for Micro Rainbow, which provides safe shelter to LGBTQ plus asylum seekers and refugees.
So an open subversive.
Yes, open subversive, that incredibly broad spectrum of people who are LGBTQ plus from the areas in which we are receiving refugees. and asylum seekers, the incredible influx of LGBTQ Albanians we've been receiving, I assume. Then we've got this amazing one, woman cutting hair in Iran, who was a protester. We don't know her name. She's just woman cutting her hair. Inspirational, inspiring, brought a tear to my eye, stunning, and yet brave at the same time. Then we've got one of my personal favourites here, Ursula von der Leyen.
Ugh.
You know, the chair, the president of the European Commission.
Who's just introduced mandatory digital ID and a citizen's digital ID wallet to make you rent a bicycle or an apartment. Notice how she never said buy.
I mean, she deserves celebration, obviously. And then we've also got Connor's crush, Billie Eilish.
Look.
Singer and songwriter.
Look. Nobody's perfect.
Go to the next one. You should find her there. Basically, because they say that her song "Your Power" called out abusers who exploit underage girls.
It did, actually.
That's a fair message to spread. You know, fair play.
It's quite sad.
And to "All the Good Girls Go to Hell," a song about climate change.
It's not.
Which you say isn't.
It's not. No, the line in it is "when the water starts to rise," referencing Noah's flood because the song has biblical imagery. Now, I think it's openly subversive because she calls God her, but it's not about climate change. No.
Yeah.
I've just outed myself as knowing a lot about Billie Eilish.
But they're celebrating. You get
never
to deal
gonna
with
live
that
this down.
later. But they are celebrating her primarily because she used her Glastonbury headline spot to protest against the repeal of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, I did turn that off.
And then the quote that if you just scroll down just a little bit, the quote that they've included for her accidentally debunks the patriarchy because she says, "I'm in awe of the time we're in right now. Women are at the top." Well, there it is.
There's hope for her yet. I can fix her.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Elite capture of Billie Eilish.
You say that, but then you did send me this to include in the segment as well. This next image, if you go to it,
This is actually satanic.
Where her and her boyfriend earlier on this year in October dressed up together as a baby and an old man for Halloween. So if you think you can save that, good luck to you. You've got a hell of a job ahead of you.
Look, we all like a challenge.
All right,
This is horrendous.
All right, if you say so. Very disgusting, very strange. I get that couples can dress as weird costumes for Halloween, but if you're, 20 years older than your girlfriend and and you're an old man and you're getting her to dress as a baby, that's very strange.
Wasn't this a Jackass
very
skit
strange.
as well, where he walks around with his granddaughter and kisses her a bit too much when Johnny Knoxville's in the old man makeup? So
Probably.
They satirised this as people are going to be disgusted in public because you're a creepy old paedophile. And they went, hey, how about we do that as a Halloween costume?
Yeah, and then we've got this next article that came out from Vice recently talking about how... Yep.
That's an amazing
What are you
image.
doing? What are you doing, stepsister?
Harry!
There's a new study come out that shows that man children are destroying women's sex drives. Now, I actually
agree with
approve of
this.
the general message because there are a lot of soy-based, estrogen-glugging wimps out there, which is making it probably very difficult for women to be at all attracted to them.
Well,
the types who have, here's my wife and her boyfriend.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch players. See my recent piece on birth control and how it being in the water has emasculated men and reduced sperm counts, most likely, and also put women in a state of diminished estrogen, which means they're less attracted to masculine men and sometimes more attracted to women. So this is actually a consequence of the mass medication by the sexual revolution.
You're arguing that the sexual revolution is what's caused the gigantic influx of women coming out as bisexual.
I'm not arguing that. There are actual doctors arguing that. Go and watch the segment on the website for that.
Fair play, but they dubbed the idea of the man-child as somebody who's basically someone who's going to turn their significant other, their girlfriend or wife or whatever, into just a replacement mum.
Which women hate.
Which women hate. But also there's a big problem, which is that women actively often nowadays, the empowered girl boss young women, encourage young men to behave more in a way that allows them to become replacement mothers for them. So the best thing that you can really do as a man is act like one and don't take advice from women on how to be more of a man. General good advice right there. But of course they do eventually come back around to intersectionality. It comes down to Jordan Dixon, London-based psychotherapist, telling Vice that many humans struggle to look after themselves, both emotionally and physically. This is true. This struggle occurs primarily in the relationship with ourselves, and then, lo and behold, in our intimate relations with others. That can also be very true. It's best to be secure in yourself so that you're able to be the best person you can be if you're entering a relationship or a partnership with somebody. But then Dixon rejects the term man-child. Fair, okay. Instead, she prefers the use adult child, because as she says, anyone can be a child in a relationship regardless of gender and sexuality.
I
That's
actually
also
agree with
fair.
that.
Yet she observes this dynamic does often stem from, say it with me now, everybody, heteronormative gender expectations. There we go. Nothing biological, it's all society's fault. Dixon explains that men often face more social pressures to conform to conventional gender role behaviours, which they get from both men and women and their underlying biology, which for them has not historically included domestic labour. No, because generally, the domestic side was the woman's side in the more traditional gender roles, and the going out and breadwinning part was the man's role. Neither of them was easy. Nobody ever said that either role was easy, but that's how it worked, and because that was more of a fair split of the labour of the relationship.
Well, not just that, it's biologically correlative because you won't be working in the mines when you're pregnant.
Yeah, that just it would not make sense, although the people who made Last of Us Part 2 might disagree with you there, given that one of the main characters of that was a heavily pregnant woman going out to battle in guerrilla warfare.
Right, that wasn't
because she was a girl boss.
That wasn't the replacement protagonist with a linebacker jawline, was it?
No, it was one of her friends who the main character ends up killing later in the game because somehow she didn't tell that she was pregnant. And interestingly enough, the fact that she was pregnant when Ellie kills her is one of the things that you're supposed to feel extra bad about. Oh, she didn't just kill the woman, she also killed the baby. Oh, so I guess it's a baby when it's convenient and you want us to feel emotionally manipulated to feel bad. Otherwise, it's just a parasite if you want to get rid of it yourself. Interesting double standard. At the same time, this article carries on, many studies have shown women are more likely to take on carer roles. I wonder if there's any biological imperative pointing them in that direction. This is thanks, of course, to societal expectations of them being for others rather than being for themselves, as Simone de Beauvoir argues in Connor's favourite book, The Second Sex.
Right, ladies, this is the example, again, of why these people hate you, because Simone de Beauvoir actually sets out in The Second Sex, one, that logic in masculine hands is violence, because women can't understand science. She says that, I didn't, right? And then she says, until we abolish the patriarchal normative nuclear family, mass enroll women into the workplace, and expropriate all property, and that paragraph cites Friedrich Engels for that, the co-author of the Communist Revolution.
Fun.
We will not dismantle the patriarchy. So she wants you to be childless, a worker drone, and to hate men. So all of feminism is a praxeological method for making you miserable, for discontinuing the human race, and for impoverishing you at the expense of these ideologues who want to collectivize all of your property and be an elite class above you. Do not listen to this nonsense. Just have a wholesome family and don't hate the men in your life.
Yeah. So despite all of that, I do sadly have to disagree with a lot of what this article is saying because it's trying to turn it into the intersectional review of relationships rather than the one that's rooted in reality and understands that men and women are different and how you can account for that in relationships to make it better for both members of the relationship. But despite all of my complaints with this, I do still get the man-child charge because it's been going on for a very long time that we have the soy beta cucks who are more than happy. There we go.
This is a real person?
This is a real person.
Well, I thought, wait, what? I thought Soy Jack was like a... He actually...
No,
my wife's boyfriend supplied me Nintendo. I thought that was just a joke. I didn't realise this.
Well, I think that Reddit post is a joke, but the guy himself is real. And if you look, that baby,
remarkably diverse
for the two. He must have some incredible recessive genes, wouldn't you say? Poor guy, but he did it to himself. He's still doing the soy face, even in the family photos. And if you can actually go to the Reddit post that the original one comes from, in this next one, where he says, I had a vasectomy yesterday, and when I woke up this morning, my wife surprised me with this. And this is Our Child Free, which all seems to be a group of feminist men coping over their terrible life decisions. Every single one of them going like, now I won't have to spend all that money on children. All I have to be able to do every day is sit around and play my video games.
I think the worst part of this photo is actually he got Destiny in year 1.
Oh, that's probably... No, yeah, that's not a good idea.
That's more torturous than
And this is quite
kids.
an old post, but it is just sad to see how many people rationalise to themselves this childless miserable video game consuming lifestyle, because this isn't what women want. This isn't what women are attracted by. The fact that his wife surprised him with this, I would take this as, oh, okay, so you're leaving me because I'm going to need something to fill the time with instead. No, but it's absolutely ridiculous. I am fully on board with Carl now. If men want women to be better, we need men to be better in the first place as well. But the only problem is, if you want to be a better man, you don't listen to women's advice on it. Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. I hope you're all having a very Merry Christmas. If you enjoyed that and want to find more, you can go to our website, lotuseaters.com, and subscribe for as little as £5 a month to become a premium member. But we do also have free content for those just wanting to dip their toe in first, including this recent video from Carl on reality against abstraction. If you're interested in finding more about what Carl is up to these days, you can follow him on Getter @CarlBenjamin. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again soon.